Mitch and Harry, what are some of the things that in processes of hiring processes and interviewing processes that applicants or interviewees should know but probably don't? Some behind the scenes stuff. Harry?
Okay. So one thing I always say to whoever I'm speaking to, if they're in the market for a job, is that the assumption that just because you went to the employer's website, filled out the form, or attached your resume and put it into their database, doesn't mean they're ever going to see it. You know, and I think almost universally, candidates are surprised to hear that, that there isn't a vetting. And I think it may be seen, but it may not be seen. And certainly, if it's not seen in the first week or two, it probably won't. It won't be seen. There's lots of reasons this happens, but by and large, recruiting functions are working on what's right in front of them. And if you're not responding to something specifically, there probably isn't a whole lot of proactive searching going on into the database. So being much more active and trying to get a warm introduction into the company through an employee referral program, through someone who you know, who knows somebody who works there, anything has a little higher likelihood of getting your resume seen than relying on the company to find it, even if it's in their own database. I think that's an important insight for job seekers to understand. Common complaint is, you know, I sent my resume and the company didn't even respond, right? Well, that's how it is. So the better response is, I sent my resume and the company didn't respond, I need to go find a way in through a different avenue. That's a better way to think about it. So I would offer that as one insight that really will make a difference. Just stay at it and try to get into the company via any means necessary.
Okay.
I'd add two things, Gary, that may seem pretty basic, but sometimes people forget. And this is particularly true at senior levels, and that is that in an interview process, companies really value the quality of the questions that candidates ask as much as the quality of their answers. So they're looking for people to ask really insightful, provocative questions that are revealing about the business model, the competitive situation, what is the value add for the company's customers, things that have to do with culture. So we really prime our clients in terms of, here are things that you really should know about the company, and you shouldn't hesitate to ask, and make sure that you get ample time to ask some very critical questions, because you'll be evaluated on that. So that's one fairly basic thing, but people tend to forget. They're so concerned about answering the questions, they forget about asking the questions. The other point that I want to make, and this is also pretty basic, but again, we deal with fairly senior people who are often quite mature, disciplined, often logical, quite cerebral, and they sometimes forget to show sheer excitement, to show a little passion and emotion. So we indicate to people and encourage them to say, you know, if you're really excited about a position in a company, show it. You know, don't be so laid back. Don't be thinking about this like you're having a deep debate about classical opera. You know, you really want to go in there and talk to people about why this is so motivating to you, and demonstrate a little bit of emotion. Have a little bit of fun with this. You know, make believe that you're at a ball game once in a while. Now, don't go in and do rah, rah, rah for the whole interview, but you really want to tell people, I'm really motivated by this, and you want to demonstrate that. You know, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to have a little bit of body language that supports that. But, you know, something as basic as letting people who are interviewing you know that you're excited about their company and being part of their team can make an enormous difference between them selecting you and not selecting someone else. And, you know, when you get to those senior levels, too, there's an assumption that you really have the technical skills, so that they're really looking at, is this a person I can work with? Is this a person I'm going to be able to live with every day and have some fun with? And so being able to demonstrate that from time to time is a very powerful and potent way to sell yourself into the process and ultimately be the selected candidate.
The soft skills or the intangibles or the other things that Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know what we do in the levels that we're working in, a lot of times we have to remind people that, especially in that first interview, this interview is not about you. It's about what you can offer to the company. It's about, it's about them. You're in a selling role at this point. You're not in a demanding role. This is not the time or place to tell you, to lay out what you need out of this job. That's probably not what your interviewer wants to hear. They want to hear what you can do for them. And it amazes me how many people, you have to remind that's
not a
part
good
of the
idea
deal.
to ask how many vacation days do I get as your
That's
first
probably
question, right?
that's probably not your leading question.
But that, to that point, that happens more than I think anyone ever thinks. I don't think candidates are self-aware when that occurs in an interview. Funny story, and this just happened last month in our firm. The way our selection process is set up, I'm the last person you see. So if you get to me, by definition, it's yours to lose because you passed a certain amount of vetting to get to me. And I'm always excited to meet somebody who made it through our gauntlet of interviews because I know I'm going to have an interesting discussion with hopefully an interesting, talented person. And there's nothing that takes the wind out of my sails more than talking to them, having a great dialogue, and then I say, do you have any questions for me? I'm here. Anything you want to know about the organization? And the question is, can you tell me about your benefits plan? And I can feel my body language just go, and you know what the answer is? I don't know. I'm not the person to ask about. I have no idea what our benefits plan is. I know I think we have health. I think we have 401k. It's like that level of detail. And you want to just, as someone in business, you just kind of want to reach over and just whack them in the shoulder and say, come on, get with it. You have the leader of the organization in front of you. That is the last question. In fact, get that off the list. Mitch's point is good. Engage the people that you're interviewing in a discussion about the business and how together you can improve it. That's really how you differentiate yourself from most candidates.
Yeah, it's a conceptual conversation at that time, not a tactical conversation.
Right, exactly. Right.